All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 79 of the Gretsch Afternoon Drum Break. I'm your host and creator of the live stream series, the Gretsch Afternoon Drum Break, and coming to you all the way from snowy Orillia, Ontario, Canada. Oh, man, it's not fun. I'm looking out the window here, and it's still snowing. So it's a good 28 hours of snow. Exciting here, but I'm telling you, I am so excited to be chatting with today's guest, Mr. Connor Denis, all the way from probably Florida, I would imagine. It looks definitely warmer than what it is here. But Connor has been on my radar now for a few years. And man, there's just such a buzz with his band, Beartooth, and his playing that he's on the lips of so many musicians, whether they're playing, a harder style of music or not. I talked to some drummer friends of mine, musician friends that play in that genre, and I said, "You're never going to guess who I'm having on the show." And I said, "Connor Dent." And they interrupted me and said, "From Beartooth?" I go, "That's the dude." Their eyebrow, and they go, "Dude, wow." He goes, "That we're so stoked," and they're going to watch it after they finish work. So, and every video that I see him playing has just such an energy, a passion, a commitment to every note, a fire. Really great, killing, solid time, chops, taste, but a great sound. Connor and I were just chatting about this before we went live here, and he has such an amazing, wonderful, warm, great Gretsch sound. So things are just exploding for the band and for Connor, and I'm so stoked to have him on today's program for episode 79. Connor, welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Neil. And thank you for that incredibly generous intro. Really appreciate it.
All true, man. Thank you. So where are you now? It looks definitely sunnier than it is here.
So I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. I moved here last year. I'm originally from South Florida, so just a few hours south of here. But it's great. Actually, it is freezing today here. It's about 60 degrees. Which
that's awful.
That's very cold for us. That's very cold for us.
Totally is. Everybody would have jackets on and probably some beanies or toques, whatever you call them down there.
Yeah.
And gloves.
That's right.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'm so glad you made the time. It's been a crazy year for you playing with Beartooth and dropping the 5th album in October called The Surface. And anybody that hasn't listen to that record or seen this band and drummer live, you absolutely need to. So, man, like what have you done? What was 2023 like for you?
Man, we just had a lot of touring going on. 2022 felt like still kind of coming off of the tail end of the effects of COVID and everything. And still kind of navigating that a little bit. And then 2023 really felt like the first year that we got back into like a, full, back to normal full-time touring. And we were just really busy. And like I mentioned, I moved as well. So just a lot going on, but really a great year.
Yeah, it's amazing. How many dates did you figure you guys did?
Oh man, we were on tour for probably 7 months of the year, and we probably played, man, we probably cleared 120 shows, something like that.
It's insane. That's great.
Yeah.
Amazing. So where was the touring? Where did the touring take you?
Well, we started the year in Europe. So we were able to do a headliner back in Europe for the first time since 2020. Ben Zucker, I see tuning in.
Hey, yeah, and
love
Adam
you, Ben.
Luna.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Tuning in.
But yeah, we started the year off in Europe, and so it was our first headliner over there in about 3 years, and that was just a great tour. Really good to get back over there. That's kind of Germany and England are the two places where the band kind of has the most success, and touring over there is always a trip. And then we did a co-headliner here in the States with Trivium. And then we went straight into Australia, which was a co-headliner with Pierce the Veil. And then from Australia, we went straight back to Europe for a festival run over there.
That's insane,
Yeah.
man. You play to a lot of people. I'd see the footage, man, like the drum cam footage, and it's a sea of people. Unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
So happy. One thing I forgot to mention too is that I was at the Gretsch 140th anniversary in New York in May, and there's a 140th Gretsch 140th anniversary documentary film. And if Gretsch drummers or drummers in general haven't seen that, you need to watch it. And Connor, you're in a ton of this video. I'm sitting there in May, and I'm with the Gretsch, sitting with Fred and Dinah, and that was just ridiculous. But watching, I'm like, that's Connor, man. Like it just, and that must have been a real trip. Can we back up a little bit? And how did you become a part of the documentary film?
Yeah. So that really was a trip, man. I was like in shock when I got called and asked to be a part of that. So I'll go back to kind of how my relationship started with Gretsch, and
Yeah.
I've been an artist with them for coming up on 8 years now. And even, I signed with Gretsch when I want to say I was 19 or 20. Yeah.
Wow.
Which was just also crazy, and kind of a lot of things that went into that, and how it kind of came about and how I got in contact with them. It's notoriously kind of a tough company to break in with, and they keep it very tight and small. And, but over the years, I've kind of like really leaned into my love for Gretsch drums, and it's kind of become a part of my identity in the music industry and as a drummer. And, if people know me, they know like that I'm a fanatic of Gretsch, and for that reason, Andrew Shreve from Gretsch, which shout out to Andrew. He's an amazing rep to work with, takes great care of all the artists. And Andrew called me back in January or maybe December of last year. And he's like, look, we're putting together this documentary for the 140th anniversary. And we'd really love for you to be a part of it. And I'm like, wow, okay. This is crazy. And I was super honored and everything. And then he took it a step further, and he's like, if you would be willing, we would love to come to you in Jacksonville and film at your house or your studio, wherever you have all your gear. And that really threw me for a loop, man, because number one, I live in Jacksonville, Florida. So I don't live in Los Angeles or Nashville. So, as I'm sure you can relate, being up in Canada, there are certain times where it's like some opportunities don't necessarily come your way, depending on your location.
Yeah.
So the fact that they wanted to come out here to Jacksonville, like, really just blew my mind. And it was an awesome experience filming with them and hanging out with all the guys and showing them my collection, because, they know that I'm a Gretsch fanatic, but to actually show them and have people from the company kind of see and recognize how much I love this company and these drums. It was really cool and kind of gratifying for me.
Oh man. So how did they film one day? What did they want from you? And was there a lot of takes, or tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So I'll give you some kind of behind the scenes insight on it. So this was shortly after I had moved to Jacksonville, and I was renting a small house in Jacksonville while I figured out kind of what part of town I wanted to land in permanently. And I dropped a ton of my drums off at my dad's house, which is about 4.5 hours away. And I was just storing like 90% of my collection at my dad's house. I had one kit with me at my house when Andrew called me, and he's like, do you have all your drums there in Jacksonville? I'm like, actually, no, I only have one kit and a few snare drums, and he's like, well, would it be possible to get more of your Gretsch stuff up there? And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'll make it happen. So drove down to my dad's and nested drums inside of drums, packed my car, packed my brother's car, packed my girlfriend's car. And we got all of my drums up in one trip, and somehow crammed them into this tiny house that I was renting. And yeah, so we made it work for them coming to film. And yeah, they came for 2 days, and yeah, we filmed one day, and we got to go out to dinner and kind of just hang out, and I got to kind of show them around my part of town, which was cool. So it was a really great experience.
Oh man, well, you did so well in that, and man, I couldn't believe how many times I had seen you, like interspersed. You'd see Cindy on there, and everybody was glued to this at the Cutting Room in New York City. I mean, it was the world premiere of. We'd seen the trailer of it, but everybody was just there. I don't know how many people were there, maybe 100 or something like that, and we were like, wow, this is. And it's so well done, man. It's just so well done. It was such a trip. Before we go back to your musical journey, let's talk a little bit about the gear, this collection, because I know drummers are thinking, all right, what's in this collection? What's some of the, I know you have a lot of Gretsch drums. What are some of the ones you have?
Yeah, well, I'll kind of give you some of the highlights. Aside from the modern stuff that I have acquired through, since I have endorsed the company, I have I have 2 USA customs that they've made for me. A broadcaster now behind me. I don't know if you can see him.
Yeah.
But, and a bunch of snare drums and stuff. But of the vintage stuff, I've got a walnut kit that it started as a 12, 13, 16, 22, USA custom, all the classic depths as well. And it's in the walnut gloss lacquer, really good condition. So I found this kit, and then I started to kind of find random pieces here and there. And I decided, okay, I'm going to try to create a full shell bank of these walnut drums. And that's kind of what started the collection going so crazy. So, I eventually found a 10-inch tom, and I added that. And then I found a 14, and then I found a 20-inch kick, and then a 24, and, an 18 tie.
Yeah. Who doesn't love square badge Gretsch drums?
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So all in the walnut finish?
All in the walnut finish. I'm missing, if there's anybody out there, I'm missing an 18 by 16 floor tom. And I'm missing an 8-inch tom, which I would probably never use, but it would be satisfying to have it. So those are the 2 sizes that I'm missing. And then another highlight in the collection is I do have a square badge 26 by 14 rosewood. Yeah.
I've never played a 26 of any brand. That must be unreal.
Oh, it's awesome, man. Yeah, their 26s are wild. They're so not practical, but they're so fun. And I found that drum on Reverb. Actually, that drum came from Canada. That drum came from Vancouver.
Okay, explain.
But yeah, really cool guy that was selling it, and he had a crazy collection. So that's another one that's kind of a unicorn.
Yeah, that's crazy. And what about some of the snare drums? What Gretsch snare drums do you have that you really, really love?
Man, one of the ones that's really special that I feel like actually doesn't get talked about that much is the solid maple snare drum that Gretsch is doing. So
right.
I ordered one in 2018 in burnt orange gloss. So it's a 6.5 by 14, 10 lug, die cast tubes, lightning. It's built like a USA custom. And that drum is just amazing. It kind of gives me the best of both worlds between a typical wood ply drum and a thicker metal shell drum, and kind of just does it all, man. And yeah, that drum I really like. And then the first drum that Gretsch ever sent me when I signed with them was a 6.5 by 14 chrome over brass, which is just, everybody knows that drum. It's simple, but it just kind of, there's so many times where I put on like these really expensive snare drums or these really crazy drums that I've been searching for, and I'm really excited to play them. And then when I start recording, I just go back to the chrome over brass, and I'm like, this drum, and it's got some dents on it. I've taken it on the road. It's all dirty. It's got some rust on it. But it just does the job better than almost anything else, you know?
Yeah. I've been disappointed buying some, and they were non-Gretsch drums. Buying, I don't even remember what it was, and it was a drum that I had wanted so badly for years. It was a solid ply drum, and I took it to a gig and went, I don't really like it, and I put up a Renown 6.5 wood drum, die-cast hoops, and it killed it. It was ridiculous at just how much better it was than this $1,500 snare drum that, God, I can't remember what it was. I'm blanking on the name, but maybe it's because it wasn't Gretsch. But seriously, though, sometimes the simple one, I just scored a local one, a drop G badge 5x14. I think it might be an 8-lugger. It's an 8-lug, 150 Canadian for this drum. Cleaned it.
Wow.
And I played it at a gig last night, and it was ridiculous at how great a drum this was. I even brought my Ridgeland snare drum that I just got, and it was better for this room that we were in last night. So, but it's good to have variety, though, and you know that, right?
Yeah, it is. First of all, I'm jealous of the Ridgeland. That's
Cool drum.
That's probably next on my list, man, because I have with this broadcaster kit that I got a semi-matching snare drum with that kit. So it's the kit is a satin Cadillac green, and I told Andrew I want a snare that goes with it and looks good with it, but I don't really like when snares are an exact match to the kit.
Right.
There's something about it that feels like kind of like it reminds me of like entry level kits for some reason.
That's funny.
So we did a Duco finish. It's a satin black Duco into a satin Cadillac green stripe.
Ooh, beautiful.
And I had the idea, and I'm like, I know this is not a finish you guys offer. And Andrew's like, no, I'll talk to the guys at the factory. We'll do it. It'll be one of one. It'll be really special. So that drum's really cool. But also the Renowns, man, like you mentioned the Renown.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time because I think, it's such a nice thing that to be able to recommend drums that don't have like a crazy shocking price tag, so there's younger kids who are fans of Beartooth and, that come and see the band and stuff. And I get DMs a lot asking what kit should I get? And I'm like, man, I use these Renowns on tour. That's what I use in Europe. We have a Renown kit that lives over there. I toured with them in the States for years. Like, they're fantastic drums, man. And funny snippet, Caleb, the singer of Beartooth, actually, he prefers the Renowns over USA Customs, which I always think is hilarious. Cause to me, it's kind of like sacrilege, but like he loves the Renown drums. And I'm like, it is a testament to how great they are for like, they're like it's like under $2,000 for a full kit,
It's crazy. I've had front of house guys say that drum set, and it was around the second generation Renown kit. They said they are unbelievable. And I'm like, I have a USA. They go, I like this drum kit.
Yeah.
So, and you know what? And they record great. I had the 57 kit here that one of my drum students now has, and that was the snare drum that I brought out. And man, it was just dynamite. Wow, that's awesome. I just happened to watch you yesterday on YouTube playing that kit. It was probably Europe. And what are the sizes of that Renown kit? It looks like a white marine pearl.
Yeah, so they call it vintage pearl. So it's kind of like a faded white marine pearl. And it's very cool. Hello to you in the Bahamas. That's awesome.
Kool-Aid. Hey, Denis. Yes.
So it's a 13x9, 16/16, 18/16, 24/14, which those are kind of my desert island sizes. And then I have a Brooklyn snare drum over there on that kit in Europe, but we'll usually fly with a snare drum too. So usually have two, always have a backup, and sometimes we'll throw the backup on as the main, depending on what room we're in and what sounds better.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's crazy, man. We could talk gear for the whole duration. Oh, this is wicked.
We could.
I didn't realize Actually, I should have known that we would click for that, because I'll be like, I just love to pan this around here and show you some things. I've got the Bell brass snare drum, which is a killer drum, the USA custom, a Brooklyn chrome over brass, a Showman drum. There's a few things, so it's lots of fun. Showman drum's neat. But let's go back to the beginning of your musical journey when you first started playing drums. Can you give us kind of what the timeline was like? And how did you get into playing drums? Was it music first, drums first? Fill us in.
Yeah, so I started playing in 2007. I was 11 years old. So I'll go back to kind of like my childhood, and I grew up in a very not musical household in the sense of playing music. Like, no one in my family before me really played, but my dad is just a big music fan, and very diverse taste. Like, I grew up listening to a lot of hip hop, a lot of rock, even some metal stuff, like my dad just kind of listened to everything, and he was very big on introducing my brothers and I to different music. So I always was into music, like always listened to a lot of music. And in 2007, my dad basically lectured my brothers and I and was like, you all need to pick a hobby. You need something to like put your time into and something to get into. And hey, Jesse,
Jesse?
I do know Jesse. Awesome dude. Dude.
Awesome.
And yeah, so my dad wanted us all to kind of choose something, and the movie Drumline was on the TV. That Nick Cannon movie. Now I look back now and it's such a goofy movie, but I loved it when I was a kid. And I was like, I want a drum like that, the one that's got the things on the bottom, and I want one like that. And my dad's like, a snare drum. I'm like, yeah. So he got me a snare drum for my birthday, and I kind of just made a racket with it, and didn't really know what I was doing for a few months. And then I decided that I wanted to take lessons, and I started taking lessons from this my first teacher. His name was John Grillo, great teacher, and it was full drum kit lessons, but I only had a snare drum, so I would go home and kind of practice on the rim as like my hi-hat, and just kind of bang my foot on the ground. And I started to get really, really into it. And I told my dad, I really want a drum set. And for Christmas later that year, he got me a drum set. And that was, truly, like it sounds dramatic, but it absolutely, completely took over my life. Like, I didn't want to do anything except for play those drums. And my dad let me, like, credit to him. I'd say for the first, several years of me playing, I probably clocked, 4 to 6 hours a day on my drum set. And that's all I did, that's all I did.
I think a lot of us were like that. When you found something, you found the thing. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate. My wife she says that she's very jealous that I get to do my passion for a living, where she says, I don't have that thing that she goes, I go to work, I like it, I love my job, but I don't do what you do, where you actually do what you're passionate about. So what were you listening to? What were you practicing? And so what did you learn from your lessons?
So yeah, that my first teacher, I took lessons with him for about 2.5 years, and it kept moving up to more frequent lessons. Like, it started once a week, and then it was like, okay, he had another slot open, and I asked my dad, please. And my dad's like, it's funny. I look back now, and now that I am an adult and take care of myself, I understand. My dad's like, I had to figure out a way to find the money to get you another lesson every week. But I did it. And, and it got to the point where I was taking 3 a week. And those lessons were like the highlight for me. And I couldn't wait to go home and work on whatever he gave me. And he really taught me the basics. We went through the stick control book, and, he just taught me really, really basic stuff, singles, doubles, paradiddles. I vividly remember working on all that stuff in the first few months, and,
Sure.
Taught me some classic songs. And eventually he invited me up to play a song with his cover band that played around locally. So that was my first time like playing in front of people. I played a Tom Petty song with his cover band. And so that was a cool moment. And
That's great.
yeah, those first few years, it's funny. I look back now and it's like, listen, I love what I do more than ever, like more than I could put into words. I had no love lost for the drums, but there's nothing like those the beginning where it's like, it's like you said, you kind of have this moment where it clicks and it's like, oh, this is my purpose, like this is what I'm supposed to do. And yeah, like I said, it really just took over my whole life. Like I wasn't hanging out with any friends. I wasn't going out, getting into trouble. Like it was just drums, 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 and as far as it, you asked what music I was listening to and what was inspiring me at that time. The biggest name I can drop is Smashing Pumpkins, because when I was, that's like my first memory of hearing music is listening to Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. And, my dad he told me later on that he was painting our house when I was like an infant, and that he had the album on repeat, like it was playing through the stereo all the time. And I'm like, I wonder if it got in there somehow. And it's for me, it's the ultimate nostalgic music. Like, and I just remember it being the first thing that I chose to listen to on my own. Like when I got to a certain age and I was like, Dad, I want to hear that Smashing Pumpkins band again, and he would put the CD on for us. And that was really like my first musical inspiration. And it's funny because now I can hear those songs and I'm like, Jimmy Chamberlain is just absolutely insane. And it's so funny because a lot of those parts, I still can't play them,
Right? There's some weird stuff in that.
Yeah.
I was your age when that thing came out, but I have no doubt that definitely seeped into you when your dad was playing that.
Yeah.
Wow, that is amazing. So when did you start playing music with people your own age?
So I got that, my first snare drum that I got that in August of 2007, and my older brother got a guitar in October. So 2 months later, he got a guitar, and then for Christmas, I got a drum set. And so we were kind of learning simultaneously. He was taking lessons at the same music shop that I was taking lessons at, and so we were kind of learning at the same pace. And another really like great memory with music that I think all of us probably have is the first time that you played with other musicians, because it's such a different feeling. Like, playing along to records is great, but when someone plugs in a guitar in front of you and you both have to keep it together, there's no record to like be the backbone for you. That was really fun. And my brother and I have always been close, and we still, he lives down the street from me and he comes over and jams. And, but yeah, so him and I started playing together, probably within a couple months of us both playing music, so we kind of always jammed. And, for that reason, him and I definitely have like a musical chemistry. When we play together, it's like, we're kind of able to talk. We're able to speak to each other without really even doing anything,
That's cool.
We just kind of know what the other person is thinking, which is really fun and really cool feeling.
Wow. And so did you start playing gigs together?
Yeah. So he's a couple years older than me, and he actually started his first band, and I was not the drummer of it. And I was devastated.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Him and I laugh about it now. But basically, he kind of got recruited by these older kids, one of whom was the drummer. So like, you know, and I remember secretly like going to watch and being so jealous and being like, I can do what that drummer's doing, you know, like it doesn't matter that he's older than me. I can do that, you know? And eventually, my brother and I started a band together in like 2010. So after we had been playing for a few years, and we started playing shows, and fortunately we had a really, really great local scene down where I'm from, specifically for hardcore and metal music, like stuff like that. We had a really, really great scene that now I realize a lot of places don't have that. We had a ton of venues to play, and a bunch of people would come out. And so yeah, our band started playing shows, and we were playing pretty much every Friday and Saturday. And eventually we started touring throughout the state of Florida. So when I was like 15, we'd come up and play here in Jacksonville, which at the time, driving 5 hours to come play somewhere was a huge deal, you know?
Sure.
And then eventually we played in Georgia, and then we started booking our own tours, and, you know, we would go out on the road for 3 weeks at a time. And, you know, we went all the way up to New York. And so, and we're playing people's basements and record stores and things like that. But those are like some core memories for me, for sure, because it was the first time that I got a piece of like what it's like to do this full time, you know? And, I mean, every time we would come home from tour, we would all be texting each other like the day that we got home, like how we just couldn't wait to do it again, you know?
That's wild.
So it was really cool to have that experience, you know, at a young age, and to also have the experience with rough conditions. I'm really grateful for that now, that, you know, with Beartooth, we tour pretty comfortably, and we're fortunate to have a crew, and, you know, I get to have a drum tech and things like that. But, you know, touring in a van with 3 other dudes with no trailer, all the gear in the van, and sleeping in the van, and, you know, stuff like that. I'm really happy to have that, you know, experience. So I'll never take for granted what we have now, you know?
Yeah, that's great. Give you some perspective. And
Yeah.
at such, you know, and that's a great time to do that. My son is a few years younger than you, and is looking at just doing music full time. He's been playing drums since before he was 2 years old. And I don't know why he hasn't done it and really pursued it. Maybe he was just chicken to do it, but he definitely needs to and do and experience the things. I mean, we see so many different things being on the road, and you can't explain what we do. You're definitely at a different level than what I tour at, as far as audiences and things like that. But you still can't explain to your friends that have just 9-to-5 jobs and lives. We can't really give them the idea as to what happens in one day on the road, right? Like what we see, what we experience, who we meet. Like, just I wouldn't be seeing places in the world, and you probably wouldn't either, you know, had it not been for playing drums, which is awesome, right?
100%. I mean, I some of the places that we've been to, I wasn't even aware of before I woke up there. You know what I mean? So yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, a lot of these places I would have never been to, and it just gives you a kind of life experience that is hard to get any other way, you know, like being in these different places and meeting all these different people. And regardless of what level the touring is at, there is a kind of unspoken like connection and understanding with other people that do it, because
right.
You know, because it's like they understand the dramatic highs and the dramatic lows and the crazy stress that comes with it, but also the crazy like euphoria, you know, from being on stage and playing. And it's a tricky thing, man. It's such an interesting lifestyle and career path, and, you know, but I wouldn't trade it for anything.
No, same. And I love where I live. I live in like cottage country, right in Big Lake, right near us. Come home and it's beautiful, it's peaceful and whatnot. But after a week, I'm like, okay, I need to go play. I need to
Yeah.
go play some drums in front of people, with my musical family, because there's nothing like it. As sick as you can be, as much sleep as you haven't got, sometimes those are the best shows. In my case, it's like, wow, how could I have been miserable today when I have, 1,000 people sitting in front of me, or in your case, a lot more people than that, but like we're pretty lucky for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's very true.
So let's chat about what came next. How far away was Beartooth for you from where we left off in touring Florida, Georgia, and all the way to New York? How many
Yeah.
years away was that for you?
Yeah. So that first band that I started with my brother, we kind of did the whole DIY thing for a couple. I mean, I was 15 when that started. So
That's nuts.
We were, all of us in the band were in high school. So I was the youngest one, but we were all in high school. And, so we were, summer break would come and we would tour for as much of the summer break as we could. Winter break would come and, we would try to leave the day we got out of school and come home the day before we had to go back. Like we tried to pack it in as much as we could. And luckily, literally all of us had supportive parents to let us do so.
Yeah.
But that really wrapped up when in 2013, my brother went to college. My brother graduated high school and he went to college. And, a couple months before that, our band had kind of slowed down and I was playing in a few other bands and locally and stuff. And then what happened is I got a call from a band called Being as an Ocean. So that was kind of my first full-time, like professional level touring that I experienced. So my brother and I's band, which was called Sleep Patterns, we played with this band Being as an Ocean when they were just starting out. They were from San Diego. They were in Florida, and they basically, this is how the DIY touring would go, is they would say, hey, you're a band in Florida. You know all the promoters there. Can you get us on some shows in Florida? And if you're ever out our way in California, we'll help get you on some shows. And you kind of just make all these contacts. And
sure.
we played 3 shows with this band. There was maybe 10, 15 people at some of the shows, and about a year later, we saw that this band was touring in Europe, headlining to 1,000 people. And we're like, what the hell happened? Like, this is crazy, and, their drummer ended up quitting the band, and, the guitar player from that band called me and asked if I wanted to be their drummer. And I was just starting my senior year of high school. So I said, no. I'm like, I'm in high school. I don't want to drop out. I was 17 at the time. And I went home and I told my dad, and my dad's like, call him back and tell him yes. And I'm like,
I love your dad, and I've never met him. He's the coolest, sounds like the coolest dude.
Yeah, he is. He really is. And he's like, call him back and tell him yes, if you want to do it. He's like, this is a great opportunity. And I'm like, well, I don't want to drop out of high school. And my dad's like, yeah, you're not going to drop out of high school. I'm not going to let you do that, but we're going to figure out a way. And I was in my senior year. And I think like a lot of us, I really only had like 2 legitimate classes. I had two periods that were PE. I had ceramics. I had all this kind of, ridiculous stuff filling my schedule.
Yeah.
So, my dad went in and spoke with the principal at my school, and I was able to switch to online just for those 2 classes that I needed. Cool. And so I went and recorded a record with this band, and then we started touring. And that band, the touring schedule was like literally absurd. I mean, the first year I was with them, we were on tour for over 300 days. And I was 17, and the first tour was UK to mainland Europe to Russia, and I was like so out of my element, so much learning experience on those tours, and really like just kind of got thrown into the deep end. Like I went from waking up in my dad's house and going to high school to like being in another country and doing classes online and playing in front of a few thousand people. And so it was just, it was I was definitely not ready for it. And it was a crazy experience. It was really tough and I struggled with it, but I played in that band for 2 years. And in 2015, we did Warp Tour, Vans Warp Tour. And which for anyone that doesn't know, Warp Tour is a 2-month long festival tour that has like 40, 50 bands on it. And it's the same lineup every single day. So it's a full on traveling festival, and it's crazy, and it's in the summer. So it's really hot, and so we did Warp Tour, and we happened to be on the same stage as Beartooth. And I became buddies with Caleb, the singer of Beartooth, because as I mentioned earlier, he's a drummer, and he saw me. I would be behind the stage setting up my drums at like 10 a.m. and I'd be sitting back there all day with like pads on my drums, just messing around, and you can't make too much noise because there's bands playing, but he would come over and we would kind of trade ideas and stuff, and he would sit down on my drums and I'd show him stuff and he'd show me stuff, and he started watching our shows like pretty much every day, and I would watch them every day, and we just became friends. And if I'm being completely transparent, I've told him this now, if I'm being completely transparent, I wasn't super happy in my band at the time, and I was kind of like hoping that, okay, this guy might call me if he needs somebody one day, like after we became friends, I was like, man, I would love to be in his band. But he had a drummer, and so I would never step on anyone's toes. But eventually, about 6 months after that tour, or maybe more like 8 months after that tour, they did end up needing a new drummer. And so Caleb called me, and I had just left my band right before that. And yeah, so it was really kind of like perfect timing. It feels very much like it was meant to happen that way. So everything kind of just worked out. And that was in 2016 that he called me. So I've been with Beartooth for almost 8 years now.
That's crazy. That must seem like a long, long time, right? And a lot of musical miles together, a lot of physical miles together. That is phenomenal. And so this is the 5th record, correct?
Yeah.
And how has the music changed? And how has the approaches to playing these songs for you, has that changed very much?
Yeah. So for those who don't know, most people know, but for those who don't know, the band is kind of a unique setup. So Caleb started the band completely by himself, similar to like how Foo Fighters started or something, where Dave made the first record and like didn't really know if he was going to make it a band or not. That's kind of what happened. Caleb was coming out of his previous band, and he was producing and recording with other people and stuff, and he wrote these Beartooth songs kind of just for himself. And so the band has remained that way. So Caleb writes all the music and he records all the music. And so he plays drums on the records, he plays guitar on the records, everything. And Caleb's drumming style is very, very unique. Like he kind of plays a little bit less like traditional drum stuff, and like he plays more like a guitar player, or like, you know what I mean? Like he writes, he kind of, I feel like accidentally writes these really creative, unique parts. And what's been really fun for me, and what's really like a highlight of being in this band, is that Caleb puts a lot of trust in me to kind of play the songs however I see fit live. Of course, I'm not changing entire parts, you know what I mean? But I'm not going halftime when he's going double time. I'm not,
right.
But he lets me play with my own kind of flavor, and certain parts I'm like, this doesn't feel super natural for me, so I'm gonna play it this way. And he, I mean, not once has he come to me and gone, hey, I don't like that, do it this way. I mean, we work together on like certain things where I'm like, I kind of want to do this here, but this is what you did on the record. And we kind of find something in between. Sometimes we'll do that, but for the most part, like I'd say 99% of the time, I learn the stuff at home and I kind of, put my own feel into it. And when I show up at rehearsal, it's almost never even a discussion. He's just like, yeah, everything feels good. I like the way you're playing it. Cool. So we kind of see eye to eye, and as much as we play differently, like I think we have similar taste in what works for the music, and probably doing it so long has helped too, because over the years it's gotten more like I know what he's gonna like and what he's not. I'll listen to the record and I'm like, he's gonna want me to play that part like that, like, and this part he'll be cool with me doing my own thing, so we kind of just don't even really speak about it much anymore. But yeah, that's a really cool part of playing in Beartooth.
Well, he trusts you, implicitly trusts you, which is great. And I mean, you certainly do these tunes justice. Watched a lot of live footage of you guys the last few weeks. It's like, wow, it's just
Thank you.
so. I really would love to see this band live. You come to Toronto at some point, man. That would just it'd be a trip to watch you do your thing, man. You've got this stank face that you play. It's like, and then when you meet you're like the nicest, gentlest dude, man. So how tall are you? I'm curious because I'm trying to figure that out from behind the drum kit with the 24. How tall are you?
Yeah, I'm 6 feet.
Okay, yeah, I figured you must be. I'm like, that bass drum doesn't look like it, that I know it is, because I can tell that floor tom looks big. That's right. Okay, so wicked. Oh, that's a great situation that works well for everybody. I mean, he's like Lenny Kravitz would write the parts and play all of the parts. Mind you, they're a little on the drums are certainly a whole lot, simpler. But that's a really interesting and probably unique scenario nowadays where a lot of drummers would be like, I want to play on the record. And of course we do, but shit, are you a sideman or are you a member in this band?
Yeah, so I'm a member in this band. The role is kind of like a sideman because, I'm essentially just playing the tunes live, and everything else that has to do with the band, I get called and told what's going on and I show up and do it, But so it's kind of the role of a sideman, but we are all considered members, and, we're in the photos and we're, a part of it. And the way that I look at it is what being a member means is being like really in it for the long haul, and kind of it being a thing of something that I've always found one of the more difficult parts about doing like sideman stuff is kind of not knowing, like, is this guy going to come back, or is he going to take another gig? Or if you're the sideman, like, hey, are these people going to take care of me? Like, are they going to pay me, stuff like that. Yeah. So to me, what being a member means and what that role is like, hey, when I said yes to being a member, like that's me telling you, like, I'm very committed to this and I'm not trying to go elsewhere. Like, I want this to work first, Yeah.
Yeah. That's like Nashville. You apparently, like, sometimes every cycle, sometimes they will change the band for, depending on the different artists. So that would be a little bit of a drag, knowing, yes, I'm playing with Carrie Underwood. I'm not playing with Carrie Underwood, right? Here's something, but that's amazing. So you were about to embark upon a winter and spring North American tour. Are you going to be getting to some places that you haven't been in North America yet?
I don't think so. I think on this tour, first of all, it's an incredibly long tour, and we're going we are not leaving too many markets out. I do believe we're playing Toronto, so we'll have to hang out, and you'll have to come out to the show and stuff. But I don't think there's anywhere new on this tour. We've toured the States so many times over the years and kind of been to all these places before, but to be honest with you, man, like even though I mentioned before that Europe is kind of our biggest place, I love touring the States. It's my favorite place to be.
Yeah. American audiences for us are just so much more vocal. Canadian audiences are definitely generally a little more polite.
Yeah.
Maybe they are, but we go to the States. We used to play there a ton, and it's like, holy cow, they're awake. and
Yeah.
they're appreciative and like really vocal. It's like, oh, this is unbelievable. Oh, that's exciting, man. So, how long is this run going to be for you?
It's about 10 weeks. Not yeah, maybe 9 weeks, something like that. But yeah, I think I leave January 7th and I get home March 15th. So
Wow, yeah,
wherever that
that's
puts me.
right in
Yeah.
the heart of winter. Hopefully, somewhere, some warm places in the States, at least 60 degrees.
Yeah, I hope so. But it'll be a fun tour with the new album having just
Mm,
come out. You know, we're working on some stuff and we're all communicating about kind of how the show is going to go and
cool.
what we want to do. And, you know, without saying too much,
Yeah,
we kind of feel like uh we've put on more or less the same show for the last couple years, and we're kind of ready to move into the next phase and do
sure.
some different stuff. So
That's exciting. Any
yeah.
more songs from the new record? Are you going to be
Yeah,
playing?
we're
Yeah.
playing quite a bit from the new album. Yeah.
Sweet. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. How do you stay healthy on the road during a little bit of a left turn here? How do you not get sick, or how do you stay physically so that you can? Because man, that's a demanding show. It's because you're
Yeah.
27 as well. For goodness sakes, right? That's
Yeah.
definitely plays a factor. But how do you stay healthy while you're on tour?
Well, you know, over the years, I've something that I've realized like in the last couple years with having a lot of time at home since COVID is like, oh man, I love being at home. I love my home life. And like a lot of times when we're on the road, I can't wait to get home. But when I'm here for a while, I'm like, oh man, like I've been, I haven't really lived as an adult without being on the road for at least 6 months a year, every year. So like, it's very strange for me. So I've kind of developed these routines on the road that I guess are kind of just second nature for me. Um, a big thing for me is being outside. This is why I love living in Florida. I lived in
Mm,
Nashville for a few years and the weather killed me. Like I got so sad when it was all gloomy outside and cold. And so I love that. Yeah, I'm
dude,
sorry. Hey, you're welcome to come stay with me anytime.
oh, you're the
but
best,
uh,
man.
but you know, that's something I love about living in Florida. And I try to keep that going on tours. Like if it's a sunny day outside, I'm going to be outside in the sun and
Yeah,
walking around and you know, seeing these different cities that we're in, trying to make the most of our time.
yeah,
Even though, as I'm sure you've experienced on tour, like a lot of times you don't really have a ton of time to
no,
really do anything for yourself. Like, and you don't want to go too far from the venue. Cause like, at least for me, I start to get anxiety about like,
yeah,
well, what if something
yep,
happens and I can't make it back or
yep,
like,
yeah.
so for me, if it's not walkable, I'm probably not going, you know, but but yeah, for me, I would say it's more focus on the mental side of things in terms of staying healthy than it is the physical side. But on the physical side, I have made a lot of adjustments to my setup and the gear that I use over the years in order to kind of, you know, promote some longevity here because I was 21 and Beartooth was doing a show in New Jersey and we were in the middle of the set. It wasn't even a long show, maybe a 40-minute set. And we're in the middle of it and my stick kind of just flew out of my hand. I was like, oh, that's weird. I've never felt that before. And I grabbed another one and then it happened again. And then it happened again and again. And it kept happening. And I started to have this kind of like this intense pain build up here. And I started to really fear for carpal tunnel. And essentially I had tendonitis in my arm here. And
Yep.
um, that really spooked me. So I started talking to some older guys with more experience who were kind of able to point me in the right direction of like, these are some things that you need to be doing. So I started taking, I fixed the problems I was having, but I also started taking preventative measure for
Smart.
problems that I wasn't even having yet, because I'm
Yeah.
like, I want to do this for a long time. And I really would hate to not be able to do it because my body is
Yeah.
fighting me,
Oh,
So I started using smaller drumsticks, and I started sitting a little bit higher because my back was bothering me.
yep.
I lowered the drums and the cymbals a little bit. So instead of, kind of always reaching up for them, they're kind of a little bit below me. They're still probably pretty high because it's hard hitting rock stuff. So I need some room to swing,
Sure.
but I started using smaller and lighter cymbals, stuff like that. And, I just try to keep the blood flowing and stay active throughout the day. As I'd be lying if I told you I had some consistent workout routine or something. I should, but I don't. But just kind of walking around and just staying active,
Yeah, that's key because I know a lot of musicians don't really, drummers, they deal with the problems once they have them, right?
Right.
Or they ignore it. It's like, oh, that elbow hurt. Well, why is it hurting? Oh, because I'm rim shotting my bell brass snare drum with 2B sticks, right?
Yep.
Or they're leaving the hand. Oh man, that's
Mm-hmm.
scary. And I love Dave Elich's approach, where I mean, he can play as loud and as hard as anyone, but he's so relaxed, man. I'd love to have a lesson with Elich. That would be.
Me
And I
too.
took his advice and I bought the DW, the airlift throne, and that has
Yeah.
been a game changer for me. Holy cow! So
I need to get one of those. Yeah. I have his course, his online course.
oh, cool,
I got it shortly after I had those issues with my hands and my wrists, and
smart, yeah,
that helped me a lot. And I still I'm sure if I took a lesson with him, he could pick my form apart, because even though I've gone through his course, it's like a lot of this stuff, I just feel like I'll probably forever be working on it, and I've made big improvements, but it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, there's so many old habits that are hard to break, stuff that we did for years. And especially I find now I understand this. Like my dad used to tell me this and stuff when I was a kid. It's a lot easier to learn stuff when you're a kid. And it's even harder to really, when you're older, to break some of these habits. Like for me, burying the beater, it's like very hard for me to not do that,
sure, yeah.
But I'm always working on it, and I feel like that's all I can do, right? It's like, I'm aware, I'm putting in the effort, I'm not neglecting it, and I'm always striving to be, better and healthier, and doing as little there's going to be a little bit of damage inevitably.
There's going to be
doing as little damage as I can to my body,
Weckel, I had that lesson with Weckel in the summer of 2020, and he goes, "You're not old yet." He goes, "But you're getting there." I'm like, "Thanks, Dave." And we were talking. He was saying that he had some, he goes, "It's just over time, playing as much as he has for the last 50 years or whatever, or more than that. Yeah, probably 50 years, I guess. You're going to have some repetitive strain injuries. So try and keep that stuff to a minimum for sure."
Yeah.
But that's good that you're aware of that. That's amazing. Let's chat a little bit about your getting a place that you can have your own drums and you can practice. Been watching you on IG the last while since you got your recording rig set up and whatnot. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that's always been really important to me. I know a lot of guys who have lived in certain places where they're not able to play, or maybe they have to have a practice space elsewhere, and it costs a lot of money. And it's like, for me, I'm like, I just won't. That's not the area where I'm going to compromise. Like, I will compromise other areas because that's the way I look at it. It's like, well, you're trading that for living in a big city, or I just won't do it. Like, I'm simply not going to live somewhere where I can't have this behind me,
right,
and play whenever I want. So, maybe it's because I grew up spoiled in that regard, that my dad let me play. I'm talking like whenever I wanted, and I had my drums inside the house and like right in the living room, So yeah. So, and I still have a bunch of stuff in his living room. We spoke yesterday about it. It might be time to get some of it out. But yeah. But that's really important for me. And at this house that we just moved into, I think I mentioned to you before we went live that I bought a fixer upper here. So this house has been quite a project. But one of the cool things is kind of making decisions to make it our own. And one of the things that I'm still trying to figure out is where am I going to make like an awesome big drum room? Cause here I'm in you probably can't really tell, but I'm in a pretty small bedroom. So it's just enough room for one kit, and with mics on the kit, it's pretty tight. You're kind of squeezing by, and it's pretty tight. So, but still I can play. I come in here and I can play, and I can play whenever I want. I've got nice neighbors who don't care. So, very fortunate in that regard. And I still, I clock in at minimum an hour a day. And that's another thing actually, that I forgot to mention about staying in shape on tour is I love this saying of stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
There's a lot of guys who go home and from tour and then they don't touch a drum for 2 months. And it's like, well, you're going to lose some of that buildup, that your body has. And, for me, it's like when I go back out, it's not really, I've been playing every day,
You're ready. Yeah.
I'm ready. Yeah.
That's a great feeling too, for sure. Cause you have definitely different chops when you're finishing a tour, like you're ripping, and then the first couple of times I would play in here after being away for 3 weeks and whatever, how many shows, it's like, I come in here and my poor students, when they come here to see me after a tour, they're like, what's up with you, sir?
Yeah,
funny, I know. And you're right. You do want to stay. You want to stay prepared. So what do you have set up there? You've got what is the drum kit, and what are you using as a DAW and microphones?
Let me see if I can
geeky stuff. There
move my computer enough that you
can
see a little bit.
Yeah, there they are.
Yeah, so.
Oh my goodness! Look at that.
So right now I've got my broadcaster set up. So it's a 13x9, 16x16, 24x14, and I have an 18 for it as well, but I don't have it on here right now. This room is so small that with the 18, it was like, oh man, it's too tight in here. It stresses me out. But I've actually kind of just been enjoying playing without it anyway. But I love these drums, man. I've been such a diehard USA Custom guy.
Yeah.
But I always wanted a broadcaster and always wanted to try them. And I got these a couple months ago. And they're just incredible, man. They're so different from the USA Customs, yet it still has like the Gretsch thing, So I don't know, really cool. And then I've got that solid maple snare that I mentioned. You can kind of see it.
Baby, okay.
Yeah. So I've had that on the kit.
Wow.
Really, I put it on this morning. I have a closet here next to my kit with let me see if I can if you'll be able to see that, with a bunch of my snare drums in it. And sometimes I'll just come I don't know if I can. That's a teaser. That's a teaser.
There's no snare drums in there.
There's a lot. But yeah, I'll just come in here and I just have fun with it. I just come in and start playing, and I'll play for 5 minutes, and then I'll swap out to another snare drum, and then I'll play for 5 minutes, and then I'll swap to another one, and then I'll be like, oh, what is this drum going to sound like with an ambassador? So I'll put an ambassador on it. What would it sound like with a single flange hoop? Like, I'm just messing with gear all day, and it's just fun, man. It's like, it's cool too, because I feel this is going to sound super like hippie-ish, but I feel very like in touch with my drums. Like, I know what they sound like in every tuning. I know what heads I like on them, what heads I don't. I know this kit, I like to have it tuned a little higher, and my USA Customs, I like them to be they're, with the die-cast hoops, they're a little more choked and they're a little more dead. And like, I don't know. For me, I feel like it makes the playing side of things easier, because I kind of know what I want out of the drums, and it's the gear never gets in my way. Do you know what I mean? Like, I kind of know what to select for what sound and feel I'm going for, which for me is like the most fun part of this whole job is just like the gear.
I know.
I love it.
The same way I have an old USA custom snare drum, the metal drum, and I had just regular crappy flange hoops top and bottom. And that drum, I recorded a little bit of stuff in here, just a Jim Riley from Rascal Flatts play along track, this fast 12/8 thing. And that snare drum is unreal, just with a little bit of verb on that drum. That I should send you that cut just so you can hear. And the drum is seriously, it looks like it was rolled down the street. You know, like I don't even think the rims are exactly, they're not round for sure, but that drum under a microphone is just stupid good, right?
I love it.
Right?
That's
I know.
Awesome. Yeah.
Let's kind of wrap things up a little bit here. I know we've got a busy day. Can you give us a little bit of your take on the renowned USA Custom and Broadcaster, your opinion on what is different about those three?
Yeah, all day. Easy question for me. So how much time do we have? So
there we go, whatever.
So for me, I'll start with the USA Custom, because for me, the USA Custom is Gretsch. I know the Broadcasters are kind of the OG when you look really far back. And I haven't had the fortune of being able to play one, but I've heard that the 40s 3-ply Broadcaster kits are insane. And listen, I love these Broadcasters. They're the only thing I've had set up, you know, consistently for the last few months since I got them. But the USA Custom, to me, is Gretsch. The die-cast tubes on toms, nobody did that before Gretsch. That gave the drum such a particular sound. The gum in the shell, that gave the drum such a particular sound. The 30-degree edge. So the USA Custom, all of it. And the USA Customs, I do believe they can do anything. And I know that originally they were, you know, they were known as great jazz drums. But I believe the USA Customs to be the absolute best rock drums that money can buy. I just, if you're a hard hitting drummer, you know, who the thing I love about the USA Customs is like, I don't have to dampen them or muffle. I don't dampen any of my stuff really. I just love everything wide open. But with the USA Customs, like they kind of sound like they have some dampening on them. Like the note is just perfect. But you're not actually getting that fabricated shorter note sound, because to me, a moon gel or, you know, whatever your choice may be of dampening, as much as it can give you the sound that you're looking for, I can hear, but the drum's not doing that on its own. Like that's you got something on it doing it. You know, the drum sounds choked, or it sounds, you know, with USA Customs, it's like, it's a reasonable note length. But it's just
like it's EQ'd, right?
Yeah. And it just is that way automatically. And another thing in terms of me not liking to use dampening is I prefer to make choices earlier in the chain of command, like with the head choice that I'm using, or the hoop on the drum, or things like that. I prefer to do it that way to achieve the sound that I'm going for before I would dampen it. So like, for example, with these Broadcasters, when I first took them out of the box, they were a little more open than I wanted in like this medium rock tuning range that I was doing. So I took the clear ambassadors off the bottom and I put coated ambassadors on the bottom. And that got them just a little bit more dead.
Sweet.
And it put them right where I wanted them, as opposed to putting a big piece of tape on them or something like that. So anyway, USA Customs to me are the quintessential Gretsch sound. Great rock drums. They literally can't be out of tune. I don't know, especially the kick drum. To me, there's no kick drum that even comes close to a USA Custom. And then Renowns to me are like USA Custom juniors. Like they're very similar to USA Customs. You know, they have the same bearing edge, the same hardware, aside from now they put 302 hoops on them instead of die cast. And obviously it's an all maple shell instead of having gum. So those are like the main differences. And I think the Renowns are the Renowns 7-ply. instead of
I'm not
6.
sure.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
not sure.
they might be, but don't quote me on that. But regardless, to me, they're very similar. It's kind of like if you want a USA custom with a little bit of a lower price tag, the Renown does a pretty good imitation of the USA custom. I mean, it's close, man. And they have their own thing a little bit too. And even though they have 302 hoops on them, in my experience, they're a little more choked. They're like a little bit more dead than a USA custom. I don't get quite as much sustain out of them.
Right.
But I love them. They feel like a USA custom. They give me a lot back. Like I pull off when I hit the drums, I don't leave my stick on the drum, and it's the feel of a drum is big for me. I tune my drums a little higher than a lot of rock guys would. And so that rebound is big for me. The Renowns still give you that just like a USA cut, with my eyes closed, they feel the same. And then the broadcasters they have that kind of pillowy, kind of vintage thing, but not really because they're not dead. Like I thought they were going to be dead. I thought they were going to be like more, less sustain and like a little more like a 3-ply Ludwig or something, but they're not. They're really not that at all. They're very like, they're very open. And in my experience with them, which I've only had them for a few months, so I've only put a few different kinds of heads on them and stuff. I haven't taken them out on the road, obviously. So, but in my limited experience with them, they like to be tuned higher, I'm finding, and they really like to be wide open, man. Like they produce a long note, and I'm finding that they like to be tuned higher or like super low. Like they work if you put them really low and put like tea towels on them or something. I know I just said I don't dampen my drums, but for a really specific sound like that, you kind of have to, but they do that really, really well. With USA customs, I don't quite love bringing them down like super, super low. I find that like even with snare drums with die cast hoops, I don't have as much luck bringing a drum really low, as I do with like a triple flange, but or like the 302. But yeah, that's my take on the broadcasters. And then Brooklyn's are kind of just right in the middle. Like they're kind of the best of both worlds.
They're great drums.
They're great drums, man. And something that has surprised me is whenever I talk to the guys at the factory, I one of the best parts about moving to Jacksonville is I live 3 hours from the factory now.
That's right, you do.
Yeah. So I've been there a few times now, and we've kind of started this tradition of like, when I have new drums, I'm not going to let you guys ship them. I'm going to come pick them up, so it's really cool to go to the factory and like shake the hands of all the people that worked on the drums. Like, the woman that puts all the hardware on the shell, the guy that cuts the bearing edges, the person that's doing the paint job, like all that kind of stuff. It's really, really cool to go meet all those people and for them to see like how happy I am with the drums and like how exciting it is. It's, it's cool. So I've gone up there a couple times, and what surprised me is like almost everyone at the factory, I'm always asking them, I'm like, what are your favorite of the three, USA, Brooklyn, and Broadcaster? Really? And they're always telling me Brooklyn, man. Like they're always going back and forth, which is exactly what I would do. Everyone's always like, I don't know. But they always land on Brooklyn. And I actually don't have a Brooklyn right now, but I'm plotting an order for one. And there's something special about those drums, man. I have had one in the past, and unfortunately had to get rid of it during COVID. But there's something special about those Brooklyn drums, man. And they, like I said, they're kind of the best of both worlds with the USA and the Broadcaster.
No, oh man, it's funny. I go on the site and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll get a Brooklyn kit, and look at our artist pricing, and I'm like, how can I not get a Brooklyn kit, right?
I know, they're so affordable.
It's bananas. My friend Ralph has a mix and match Brooklyn kit, and during COVID, I started recording here, and he let me take his kit for a couple of months. I felt terrible. He had another drum kit, and the kick drum was just. They were all such great drums. It's like I didn't have a favorite. I loved all of the toms. You know, sometimes one tom is going to be magic, and the other toms they're great. But they were all just dynamite, and they look great. Are you direct to shell guy, or do you have suspension mounts?
Well, I'm kind of just a snare stand guy, but I love direct to shell. Like I love the way it looks, and I love the mount on the bass drum. So the first kit that I ordered from Gretsch, dude, it's the best. The first kit that I ordered from Gretsch was a Tony Williams yellow USA custom. And like there was a few things with that kit where when I was on the phone with Andrew ordering the drums, I was like on the fence about a couple things. And I was like, yeah. He's like, what are you thinking about with the finish? And I'm like, well, I like burnt orange gloss. I'm thinking about Tony Williams yellow. And he goes, done, Tony Williams yellow. And I was like,
I love Andrew.
Me too. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, if it's even on your mind, like if it's an option for you, like that's what you got to do. Like your first USA custom, like what, you know? So I was like, you know what? You're right. That's a classic. And that kit, again, I was like, I'm thinking about doing the tom mount, you know, direct to shell. And he's like, okay, well, if you hate it, I'm not going to make you do it. And he's like, but if you're even on the fence about it, I'm going to push you to the finish line with that, because to me, it is Gretsch. Like it's, you know, and that diamond bracket that they're doing now. Oh my God. It's so good looking. So I do love direct to shell, but, on the road and like for the most part, I just put it on a snare stand. I just like it that way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And a single rack. Do you ever play two?
I'll do it at home sometimes for fun, but like not really. I do it and then I don't know what to do with it. Like I'll do 12-13.
Yeah.
Or I'll do 10-12, or like I had this kit. I actually just sold off a few pieces from it, but I had this kit that was 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 16, 22, square badge, and one owner all left the factory together. But I just wasn't playing it enough, and I had a guy who really wanted it, and I was like, I'd rather these go to somebody that is going to play them than collect dust. As much as I'd love to keep them on a shelf, you know, it just doesn't feel right. But that kit, like I would set up a few of the toms, and it's just like, I just don't know what to do with them. 13, 16, and then almost any kick drum size I'm comfortable with. And if you give me an 18, that's cool too. But as long as I have a 13 and a 16, I'm happy.
I haven't owned a 13 in years. I played a fly date last week, and the first tom was a 13, and it was wicked. But it was tuned up high, like way higher than. And man, it felt really good. Now, definitely, that's been on my wish list is to get a 13 and a bigger bass drum. I've got the 20, but I've got the broadcaster in 20 by 16 deep. I wanted it, so they did a 16 deep, and that's got some bottom, even with the factory heads. I'm not kidding. Front of house is like, I don't know what that's up with that kick drum, but that sounds ridiculous. There's this sub, you know, this bottom end in that bass drum. Man,
that's a good size. That's a good size.
Good versatile size. If I need to play anything jazzy, I can, you know, tune it up. I've never tuned that drum kit up though. I play in an ABBA show, so it needs to have that dead 70s drums or those, and it sounds great. White glass glitter, direct to shell. And thanks to Andrew for, I wasn't really sure after a little bit. I thought maybe that 12 was a little, and no, it's great. And zero dampening on the toms. Zero.
Yeah. Nice.
No.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, buddy. Man, this has been so fun, and we could definitely geek out for another good hour or so. But anything that you can share to any up and coming young drummers that says, man, I want to do what you do, what advice, what things have you learned that you could impart to somebody?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is you gotta love it. You gotta love it through the ups, through the downs, because there will be ups, there will be downs, there will be highs, there will be lows. You know, keep in mind that great feeling and that, you know, the thing that made you want to do it in the first place, you know, never forget that. And I truly believe, man, like I truly believe anyone that really wants to do this, you know, if you keep going for it, you know, and you do it the right way, you're not trying to cheat the system, you're not trying to take shortcuts, you're not in it to get deals with companies and to do this and that. You're in it because you love it. I really believe that it works out the way it's supposed to. So just keep going, and, you know, do it for the love of the instrument, man.
That's amazing. You're very wise beyond your years, and I'm telling you, I learned a lot on here, and there's a lot of similarities, even though there's a good age gap between us. Very similar, our love for Gretsch drums and the geekiness of it, and I just remember putting different drum heads on snare drums and on toms, and so spending the time with the instrument to get intimate with it so you know what it can and can't do. So, man,
Absolutely.
thank you so much, Connor, for your time. I appreciate it, man. And I know a lot of people are going to this is going to be on YouTube and the Facebook page. People are going to be digging this and checking it out. So thanks so much, man, for your time.
Yeah.
All the best to you. And let's see if we can get together when you're in Toronto. That would be so fun.
That will be great. Yeah. And likewise, Neil, thank you so much for having me. It was really fun. And thanks for your patience with my schedule too. And yeah, but I look forward to hanging out, geeking out more. And you know, you're looking for some bigger drums and a Brooklyn. Maybe we coordinate on a copycat kit here, because I got
that would be wicked.
I got some ideas I'll pass your way.
Oh, please do. That's funny.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Oh, that'd be great. Oh, here we go. My poor wife.
Me too.
All right. You take care, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in, and thanks for commenting. And we will see you next time on episode 80 of the Gretsch Afternoon Drum Break. Take care, everyone.
Awesome. Take care.